Hey guys, Gus here, and today I have the absolute pleasure of reviewing some of the miniatures from a company called Mierce Miniatures. Initially, when I saw this game, I first saw it at Salute 2014. I mean, I'd heard about it before then, but not really taking much interest. When I walked past the stand, the first thing that I noticed was the size of some of the miniatures, and I thought, okay, well here we go, Forge World Syndrome, bigger but not better. But then I actually had a chance to have a look at the miniatures, and even the largest miniatures are so well sculpted. It's pretty crazy. They're fantastic, and they don't skimp on the smaller stuff. Their smaller stuff, in terms of, you know, it's still a 28mm game, but in terms of their men-size figures, they're still superior. You know, in terms of a resin cast to pretty much most of the things out there. And I thought to myself, oh well, you know, I bet it's all about the miniatures. I bet the rules aren't very good. And in fact, I was pleasantly surprised because the rules are actually very good. It's that they work on a D100, a percentile system, and you've got like stat cards and various stats for your miniatures. But I won't go into that too much. Primarily, it's to review the miniatures today. So let's start off with a bang, and I'll show you this bad boy. Check this out, motherfuckers! Holy dog turd. I mean, look at this thing. Look at the size of it. Obviously huge, you know, but the detail as well is fantastic. All resin miniature. I mean, out of, and you'll see, you know, a lot of the stuff I got sent, out of all of the miniatures, I found, I think, one air bubble in the base of some guy's foot, so he's missing his heel kind of thing. So the quality control is there. They're really good, and it's good quality resin. It's hard resin, it's durable, but yet it's still easy to clean the mold lines off and to assemble. And this is the other thing with these miniatures. You know, I received these quite a while ago, and I have been taking my time with them, and I'll tell you why. It's because I've not had this much fun just building miniatures for a really long time. Just putting these together was an absolute pleasure. So this thing here is part of the Brythoniad faction, which is like a proxy to the native Britons, like the ancient Welsh, and obviously the Welsh, you know, and dragons and stuff. They got a dragon on their flag after all. So this is one of the monsters you can have for that faction. Now, just a quick word about the game. It's kind of, the setting is kind of like Dark Ages, probably towards the end of paganism and into the sort of Christianization. So I don't know, probably what, like 900s, you know, 1000s, something like that, where the Vikings were being Christianized. So that sort of late Dark Age period, but with a twist. So you've obviously got all these monsters, and you've got these like freakish wizards running around, and you've got this new religion popping up, kind of like a Christian proxy, but it's not. It's a lot, you know, it's like an evil religion or the new religion. So it's kind of that time period. So, but obviously with a twist, you've got fantasy and monsters and stuff. So that's where the setting is for Darklands. So this is Angrislaug, which is one of the dragons for the Brythoniad faction, like I said, the native Welsh. And I mean, just check this thing out, man. It's absolutely fantastic, and I can't wait to paint it. It's gonna be great. Okay, next up we have a miniature from the Norse faction. So of course, you know, the Viking type proxy, and because it's Norse and because it embraces Norse mythology and folklore, of course they have to have trolls. I mean, come on. So you got this thing. This is called Gamla Bror, which is like a troll. That's its name, but it's like a troll shaman. So as you can see, incredibly well detailed. Let me get this nice and close up to the camera. I mean, this is, you know, we're looking at monstrous infantry, so a 28mm man, you know, would come up to the waist kind of thing. So this is still a monstrous, you know, creature. But I mean, check out the detail. It's absolutely fantastic. And again, it was just such a pleasure to assemble this miniature. Really, I know it sounds really odd, you know, enjoyable to put together miniatures, but they really were. I can't emphasize that enough. Absolutely fantastic miniatures. And like I said, with the bubbles and stuff, it's, you know, these sculpts have retained their detail. I mean, you can even see like all the, kind of see the leathery old skin and the texture on there, and all the veins in the arms. You've got the weapons around the belt. You've got all the rolls of skin around the belly. It's just great. And again, I'm really looking forward to painting this. So next up, we've got a unit from the Reich. faction. I think I'm saying that right, Fomorek. That's always one of the things they say with this game is like, hey, do you know Darklands? Oh, is that the game where you can't pronounce any of the names? Yeah, that's the one. So they've got lots of very, you know, spin-offs from the actual historical names. So I believe this faction is based on the Fomori, which were like sea monsters from Irish mythology. At least the background and the name seems to match up with that. So this is a unit from them, and these are called the Stronaks, which are like a rhino man. They're rhino men, that's what they are, but they look fucking cool. So here we have it, the Roaring Stronaks units. So again, these are monstrous infantry, so you got what, 28mm miniature coming up to around his waist. And like I said, these are like rhino men. Also again, an absolute pleasure to put together. And I think these would be pretty easy to paint because they mostly got fur on them. Little Willy! Because they mostly got fur on them, so they'd be fairly easy to paint, and they'd look great as well because they're all in very epic sort of poses, as you can see here. I really dig this dude, the guy with the big frickin' maul. You know what I mean? But cave somebody's skull in. Yes, as you can see, really cool poses, and they've got kind of that sort of belly armor on as well, which shows the symbol of the Fomorek faction. It's like the eye, like the toothed eye kind of thing. And you know, I mean, even if you're not going to play Darklands again, these will make great proxies for a lot of other war games, things like Warhammer and stuff. You could use these for, you know, various monstrous infantry units. Again, same with like the trolls and stuff. You could probably proxy those. Same as dragons, you know what I mean? So it's miniatures you can use for multiple systems. Okay, so next up we've got a Monstrous Leader from the Chthon's faction. Now these are kind of like a Lost Atlantis, half reptile, half man kind of faction, but it's mixed in with kind of Greek mythology because they go on about the the different kinds of gorgons and what have you. So kind of Greek, kind of Atlantis. Think of that sort of thing. And check this dude out. Check that out! How cool is that? This is Ophios, a Gorgon of Chthon. So he's one of the war chiefs for the Chthon's faction. Like I said, sort of a Lost Atlantis, half reptile, half man kind of thing. And you can see it's almost like, strangely enough, reminds me of kind of like a Slanesh kind of thing. So it's like these beautiful, perfect, features of a human being mixed in with a reptilian lower half. And again, just check out some of the detail on that. It's absolutely amazing. I can't wait to paint this up. I might actually do a full tutorial on just how to paint this guy because you can do so many cool things with that miniature. Check him out. Isn't that fantastic? Okay, so next up we have a faction called the Ysians. Now, I can't quite pin down what sort of mythology this proxies, but they speak about the degenerates of Ys, which is a damned city, and they speak about the Drunes, which are these little freaks here, and how cruel and depraved they are. Actually, it's my favorite faction. They got some really cool stuff. I really like these miniatures. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Germanic mythology, but also a mix of like like the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah out of the sort of biblical tales, so that kind of thing. And for some reason these particular guys, these axe Drunes as they call, the whole look of them and the theme and the name really reminds me of Slain the King. And yeah, they've got Drunes and stuff in Slain, so it reminds me of that. But remember what I said about these being just as great as the big miniatures? I mean, let's pick up one of these guys here and just have a quick look. Again, 28mm scale, but I mean, check out the detail. So, they've not just gone huge monsters and then skimped on everything else. They've really put loads of time and effort into absolutely everything. These are so fantastically detailed. I'm actually a bit intimidated to paint them. But again, they were such a pleasure to put together. They, such, just everything fits properly. Because they're such high quality resin, all the resin's smooth, there's no ill sort of bumpy and fuzzy texturing on them. So again, the quality control's fantastic. Let's just have a look at the standard bearer here. Really cool with his stitchwork banner. And his frickin' axe, because he doesn't need an axe, right? I've got an axe. Not a big one, but I've got one. And here's the hero of the unit, this big mutant here. So these are the axe Drunes of the Ysian faction. Really, really fantastic. So last but certainly not least, we've got a miniature here from the Anglican faction, which is sort of a Anglo-Saxon proxy, so it's a British Saxon kind of thing with all the, you know, the designs and the backstory and stuff, and also the shape of the helmets and the swords and armor and that kind of stuff. So very sort of Saxon fantasy proxy-ish. And this miniature is actually Penda the Bloody Handed, who is a warrior king of Mierce. Now Mierce, a lot of people are like, oh, why do they call their company that? That's a stupid name. I'm like, no, it's not. Well, Mierce is actually, I believe, it's Old English for Mercia, and Mercia is a region of England. It's called like, it's like the border kingdom, so it's like middle south of England kind of area. So it's the Old English name for Mercia, you know, the borderlands. So that's why they use that name. So this is the warrior king of Mierce. So a pretty significant character if you read up on all the backstory, which by the way is actually really good. I'd highly recommend you read up on the backstory. It's fantastic. It's really good stuff. Really gets you in the mood for the game. But yeah, pretty significant miniature, and again you can see all the really fine details. You know, the different like styles of armor, from chain to sort of lamella on the shins there, and the really cool pose. And again, the Anglo-Saxon style on the actual you know, helmet of the miniature. So really fantastic stuff. I'm thoroughly impressed with these miniatures. They are fantastic. So I wouldn't be able to review the miniatures, of course, without talking about the price. Now, they are expensive, but relatively speaking, so when compared to other companies that are producing similar sized miniatures with, you know, the quality control and the detail, etc., etc., they're actually relatively okay. The price is fine, and you don't need that many miniatures for the actual game, because it's kind of like a skirmish plus game, so maybe a little bit bigger than a skirmish game, but not, you know, you don't need a lot of miniatures. So for example, this dragon right here, again from the Brythoniad faction, the Welsh, goes for £94.99, so this is like £95 for this dragon, which actually for what you're getting I don't think is that bad. And again, you know, I would compare this to Forge World, because if you look at the quality of the resin, I mean, Forge World was great back in like the 90s, but they've not really advanced, so I don't find Forge World quality to be particularly good. But these resin miniatures are, out of all the resin miniatures I've ever, you know, owned and seen and handled and put together, they're actually probably the best in terms of resin, you know what I mean? So resin miniatures, I reckon these are probably, they're definitely up there, if not the best, yeah. So you're looking at £95 for a dragon like this, and also for a unit of monstrous infantry, like these 5 of these guys, you're looking at also £95. And really, I've seen games played with like 1 unit of monstrous infantry, a leader, a beast, and maybe some normal infantry. So you're looking at, like, to build an army, you're probably looking at like between 250 to about 400 quid. You're looking at to buy an army, which really, if you have the money to spend on Forge World, yeah, you have plenty of money to spend on these. But I will say that the customer service is great. The guys are great. They've done a really good job with these miniatures, and if you do spend the money on them, I really doubt that you'll be disappointed. They are very good quality. So guys, that's been my video review on the miniatures produced by Mierce Miniatures for their game Darklands. Again, highly recommend them. I highly recommend you check out the site. I'll put a link to into the description below. Please like, please subscribe, and please leave your thoughts and comments. Take care, guys.